Hello everyone, welcome to a very festive Halloween take and bake. We have some jack-o'-lantern sandwich cookies. They are delicious, they take a little bit of effort to make, but with some persistence you'll have something super cute and spooky for the holidays, so let's begin. We're going to start off here with our dry ingredients. We have, first of all, 4.5 cups flour, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, half a teaspoon ginger, quarter teaspoon, although I used half a teaspoon because I like it so much, nutmeg, and half a teaspoon salt. And we'll just get that all mixed up. We'll set that aside. In another bowl, we're going to cream our 3 sticks of hopefully room temperature butter, and then we're going to add in 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar. I prefer dark, once again, more flavor, but up to you. And then after that, we are going to add 2 eggs. Get that all incorporated. Once again, room temperature is best with the eggs. And then after that, we are going to do 1 tablespoon of vanilla. And then we will get that all mixed up and prepare to incorporate these 2 batches. So here we go. I'm going to do about 1/3 of the dry mixture into the wet. Mix it up, add the second third, mix it up, and then add the third. And by the time it's all done, the dough was still kind of crumbly. I ended up not being able to mix it all together very well until I turned it over onto my cutting board, where I worked it a little bit by hand, as you can see here. Added some flour down, it was a little bit sticky. And then eventually, after a little bit of effort, you'll have a nice ball. And at that point, we're going to want to cut it in half as evenly as possible. If you have a food scale, that would be ideal. Get them exactly in half, but I kind of eyeballed it here. So we'll set half of that ball aside, and then we're going to take our half. I floured my countertop here, and I tried to flatten into a 1/4 inch, fairly even piece of dough. You can see here I'm using my cookie cutter. And word of caution, unfortunately this cookie cutter is not very easy to use. What I found worked for me is spraying it with cooking spray before I used it, and then not going down all the way to the countertop, as in not pushing it down all the way, because I found that caused the dough to stick up inside the cutter. So once you have your pieces cut out, you can see I'm gingerly using a spatula to put them on my baking sheet. I use a fork to remove the little bits that got stuck in there. I ended up switching to a toothpick because I found that a lot easier. You can see here I'm kind of struggling, gouging out the eyes, for better or for worse. Any dough remaining, roll into a ball, flatten out, and use to make more cookies. And then once we have them all on a tray, and with the mouth and whatnot removed, we're going to put them in the freezer to chill for 15 minutes and firm up. And we're going to preheat our oven to 350, and I put mine in for about 10 to 11 minutes. You can see here they have a little bit of color on the back. I noticed that when I baked the other pieces they needed a little bit more time, but the fronts were just about perfect at 10 to 11 minutes. Okay, and now we need to make the backs of the sandwich cookies. There are 2 things you can try. Here I am using the edge of the cookie cutter, just the rim, to cut out the shape of the jack-o'-lantern, but not removing the insides. Alternatively, you can use a knife to cut around the cookie cutter, because since we're filling these with chocolate, we don't want the back to have the mouth or eye holes, otherwise the chocolate will just drip out the back. So if we make a little indentation in it, that's fine, but we do not want to cut through the cookie. You can see here that the backs of the cookies, some of them have a little bit of the indentation in it, but they are all, for the most part, pretty solid. So we're going to go ahead and remove these and put them on a sheet. And from there, it's the same process. I put them on the baking sheet, I chill it for about 15 minutes, and then I baked it for about 11 to 12 minutes. Once again, I noticed the backs needed a little bit more time. I just wanted to see a little bit of brown color around the rim. Okay, at this point you should have all your cookies, the fronts and the backs, baked off and cooled on a rack and preparing for the final stage. We're going to make some cinnamon sugar. I have about 3 tablespoons of sugar and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then I have some butter melting here. It's just about 2 tablespoons of salted butter. I didn't have salted butter, so I added a little bit of salt to my unsalted butter, just a crank or 2. Alright, and once that butter is melted, we're going to take a little brush and we're going to brush a little bit over the fronts of the cookies. And then we're going to take that cinnamon sugar we made earlier and spread it on top. I used a metal sieve. You can sprinkle it with a spoon, you can do whatever you want. I would just put something under it or do it on a countertop that you can easily wipe down afterward. And now it's time to make the filling, which is just chocolate of your choice. I used dark chocolate chunks. Over a double boiler here, I heated this water up and used the steam to gently melt the chocolate and temper it nicely. And once it is melted completely, I went ahead and poured it into a Ziploc bag that I propped up inside a mason jar here. And we're going to go ahead and cut just a little tip of it and use it as a piping bag. Of course, if you have a piping bag, more power to you, but I'm too lazy for that. And at this point, it's just a matter of assembling the cookies. So here I am. I take the backs of a few of the cookies and using a pair of scissors, like I said, just cut a small hole in the tip of the bag. And I made a, I would say, large quarter-sized dab of chocolate, and then tried to find a top of the cookie that fit pretty well with the same size of the base. And then I squished the two together, and with any luck, it'll come together just perfectly. And then it's just a matter of letting them cool down and letting the chocolate harden. And there you have it! A batch of happy, smiling, mischievous jack-o'-lantern cookies. I hope everyone has a wonderful Halloween, and thank you so much for participating. Happy baking!